guys, welcome back to At the Table. Sydney here, and today we are going to talk a little bit more focused on cooking itself. So we're going to talk about the foundations of flavor. I recently went to a training that NC State held for extension agents, and they talked all about different flavor profiles, how to pair certain things to balance out different flavors, our main flavors, and then also even some cooking techniques that we're going to be touching on today. So we are making some recipes that were from that training. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it, and I loved all of the food that we made. You could really taste these different flavors that we were talking about. So we are going to be making, it's called an egg roll in a bowl. And this one is a chicken egg roll in a bowl. There's also a mushroom-based one that was really good. We got to try both of them. But we're gonna go with the chicken one today so I can show you some of these techniques that we learned. And then we are also gonna be making two other recipes that came from that. Rosemary chili almonds that are it just elevates those almonds so much. And then we're also gonna be making a green bean recipe. So to start off with, we are gonna be doing, we're gonna be kind of searing our ground chicken. So typically with your ground meats, it's not really something we'd sear as much, but for the purposes of today, and your recipe actually calls for this, we are gonna be searing. Now searing is anytime you have some oil in your pan, you get that nice and hot, and you lay your meat in your pan, and that will create a sear. So searing helps to enhance the flavor on the outside of any meat that you have. So let's say you're doing chicken, it's gonna help to brown that chicken, help to kind of crisp it up a little bit. And with searing, it's really tough because you put it on there and you let it sit, okay? A lot of us tend to not be good at just letting something sit. We wanna touch everything. So you're gonna put it on, and for what we're doing, we're gonna push it down and just kind of let it sit for about 5 minutes, but we want to make sure it gets nice and cooked through. And this will just help to cook up our ground chicken and crisp up our ground chicken and create that sear like what we're talking about on the bottom here. And then we'll flip it in about 5 minutes. So I'm just flattening it down good enough so it'll really crisp up on the whole thing and cook all the way through. I had turned my pan down just a little bit right before we started, so turn that back up. So searing is a really great technique to use with most of your meats, especially if you were going to be doing something like putting a roast or something in the crock pot, or any type of meat that you're going to be slow cooking. If you sear it first, I'm one of those that this workshop really helped me to kind of scale into my my cooking, because I scale down way too much to the point where it's still very good, but I think I could elevate it more if I just did a few of these techniques. So with searing, if you sear your meat before you slow cook it, it helps to lock in that moisture and helps to create a really juicy meat. So anytime you have a meat that you are going to be cooking, especially slow cooking, you sear it first, which is just a few minutes on each side, to kind of brown it up. It'll help to enhance that flavor of that meat, and then it also will help to lock in the juices of that meat as well. So your end product is just a lot better, and it is elevated. And that's just something that if you don't have a lot of time, if you're kind of lazy like me, you might be somebody who skips some of those steps. But I'm telling you, after this workshop, it really showed me that I need to not be skipping steps. So that is one technique that we learned. We are also I'm gonna go ahead and start chopping up some of our vegetables. So some of the things we're using today, I did go ahead and buy the pre-chopped carrots. I also purchased the pre-chopped coleslaw, and we won't have to worry with those too much. We're gonna be chopping up an onion. You can purchase frozen diced onions, and that way you don't have to worry about chopping those. And we're also gonna be chopping, this is a very fresh onion. The peel does not wanna come off. We're also gonna be chopping some garlic. And Again, if you don't want to have to worry about chopping anything up, you could purchase either, you could just do garlic powder, or you could do the garlic that is minced already. Fresh garlic, though, does make things taste a whole lot better, so keep that in mind. So I'm just going to be dicing this up. You think about an egg roll, everything's kind of blended together. You don't have big old chunks of garlic, so you want that garlic to be nice and diced well, so that it's not going to be getting big old chunks in what we're eating. So I'm going to finish cutting up this onion, and we will see you guys back in just 1 second to keep on cooking.
Most aging adults want to stay in their homes as long as possible. And as your loved ones get older, you want to support them, even when you can't be there. Star is proud to offer Star Alert. This new system is now mobile and has GPS compatibility, so your loved ones can live their lives and you can have peace of mind, knowing they can get the help they need with just the simple push of a button. The new Star Alert also offers automatic fall detection, so help will be alerted even if they can't press the button. Call and ask about Star Alert today.
Hey guys, welcome back. So our onions chopped up, and then our ground chicken is also looking good. I went ahead and just flipped it so you can actually see a little bit of that brown color that is on the one side. It has a lot of juices that are coming out, so that can affect a little bit of the browning process. Typically with your other meats, we don't tend to have that issue, but we're gonna continue to let that cook, and then we're gonna put that in a bowl. I'm gonna go ahead and chop up our garlic while that finishes cooking. So we are doing 2 cloves of garlic here, and that's really the last thing that I have to chop up, so not too much. This onion is very strong, so I might still be crying a little bit even as I'm just chopping this garlic. So when we think about our flavor profiles, really, if we're focused on what taste, just simply taste flavor of foods, we have 5 different flavors that are kind of our more common ones. So you've got your basic ones. If you start thinking about it, you probably think sweet, salty, sour, but we've also got flavors like bitter and what's called, salty is umami. We have bitter, and we also have a spicy. So spicy is our other flavor profile. And all of these things, some can enhance the other, and then we also have some that can balance the others. So if you think about salty and sweet, a lot of times those can be paired together to kind of enhance the flavor of the other one. Then we have other things, like if you have something that's that is really acidic, which can kind of cause more of that bitter flavor, then you can pair a little bit of sugar to that, and that will kind of balance the bitterness. So with our different flavors, we really want to think how, depending on what we're cooking, what we have in our dish, what do we want to use to help balance the flavor, enhance certain flavors. There's a lot that goes into cooking, more so than just throwing some stuff together and heating it up, right? So we want to think about how we can make the flavors pop, and really that can elevate our dish from being just all kind of bland and one flavor profile. So I'll talk about more about those in just a minute. We've got our chicken. It really looks good. We are going to be heating this back up in just a little bit, so just kind of breaking it up a little bit to make sure that we don't have any pink in there, but this is cooked for about 8 to 10 minutes. And again, we've got a little bit of that brown. I would like to see more, honestly, but it is okay. It is what it is. All right, I'm gonna steal this bowl, and we're gonna throw our chicken in here and just sit that to the side. So this next technique we learned has been something that I have been using all the time at home. And that is called blooming your spices. So blooming is a technique where you just heat up your pan, you heat up some oil, and you're gonna put your spices in that oil. Now, you want it to be nice and hot. Whatever you put in this, how this is gonna bloom is it helps to bring out the oils in whatever spice you are using. For this instance, we're gonna be blooming our garlic, but you could also bloom things like garlic powder. You could bloom Italian seasoning, herbs that you might be using. So blooming is just an amazing technique that really infuses whatever you're blooming, really infuses that flavor into your dish. So for instance, if you're doing something that's more of an Italian recipe, you might do it just Italian seasoning or oregano or basil, and you want Italian to be the highlight of that dish, right? The oregano to be a big highlight, and really infuse in all of the foods that are gonna be cooking in that. So if you bloom that spice, then you really do start to taste that flavor throughout whatever your dish is. And then you have other spices you might add later that helps to enhance that Italian seasoning flavor, but it might not be the star of the dish. So think of your anything you're blooming is gonna be your star. Okay, so I love garlic, and I like garlic to be my star because it's one of my favorite flavors here. So I'm gonna let that kind of heat up, and I'm gonna go ahead and throw my onion in here as well, because that can also, onion can be used for flavor as well as it can be used for texture and color and all that. Okay, so we're gonna let that cook up for just a few minutes and start to kind of get nice and brown. And then I'm gonna start adding a few of our other vegetables over here to it as well. So while that's doing that, we'll take a quick break and we'll see you guys back in just a second.
Eastern North Carolina is a beautiful place where we gladly choose to call home. And we strive to provide the best communications services. STAR is committed to improving communications to all our service areas because we want to improve the communities where we not only work, but also live. STAR Communications. We are neighbors serving neighbors.
Hey guys, welcome back. So our onions and garlic looks good. The next thing I'm gonna be adding is a little bit of, this is called ginger juice. And one of my master food volunteers told me about this. I'm just doing maybe 2 teaspoons of it. But instead of using fresh ginger, she buys this ginger juice, which she can use in a lot of different recipes. So I thought we'd try it today. But the recipe for this originally calls for fresh ginger. But the ginger juice still has lots of flavor. I don't think it's quite as strong as fresh ginger, but that depends on how much that you're gonna be adding to it. So that also, we're gonna use that to kind of enhance our flavor, and then we are gonna be adding a little bit of coleslaw. And this is just a whole bag of the coleslaw mix. So it's 10 ounces. We're gonna use all of this bag. You could absolutely just do, shredded cabbage yourself. To save a little bit of money, you want still a good bit though. So it'd probably still end up being maybe half of a head of coleslaw, of cabbage. So that would be a great way to utilize your cabbage. And I like the tricolor just because it looks pretty, but you could do, any kind that your family enjoys. Turn my pan back up. Also gonna go ahead and add in our carrots. So this is about a cup of the shredded carrots. And we're tossing everything in those onions and garlic and that ginger to help really get that flavor spread throughout our entire mixture here. So we want that to get nice and soft, and that'll need to cook for about 2 minutes here. So while that is doing that, I'm gonna go ahead and cut up our green onions, and this will be kind of what we use to finish off our dish. So we need 2 green onions. I always like to cut off the ends just because they can get kind of funky looking, and I'm gonna use most of this. I like to go all the way down to the white part, but if it's just for more decoration, you may just want to use the top half, and you can always save the bottom half for later as something that you can saute and put on different dishes. My admin here was actually talking about how she has started to saute green onions a lot and add them, like if she makes a burger, she'll saute those and add them to her burger or a stir fry, and how it just gives it a different flavor than fresh onions. So like regular yellow or white onions. So you can always save those and do that later. That might be what I do with those too. So looks good. We've got all of our stuff here. What I might do is go ahead and start on our other dishes while our cabbage and stuff is starting up. And I'm gonna carry these over because I'm gonna talk to you guys about those in a second. So we're gonna move on over here and we're gonna get started. I do need my soy sauce or my olive oil. We're gonna get started on our green bean recipe, and then we also have a chili almond recipe. So we will start on our green beans. I kept this very simple, and I just did a package of green beans. These are already snipped and ready to go. You could absolutely do the fresh green beans, snip them yourself. We're gonna go ahead and get our pan on, and we're gonna heat up our oil. Now, if you wanted, again, to enhance any spices or seasoning in this recipe, you could go ahead and bloom your spices right now once that oil gets nice and hot. For this recipe, we're actually not gonna be blooming. We're just gonna be throwing our green beans in the pan once it gets nice and hot, and we're gonna start cooking it. While I'm doing this, we are gonna go ahead and start on our sauce, which we have a few things that we're gonna be adding to that. So one is, I'm gonna do a little red pepper flakes. Not a lot, this is just gonna be about half a teaspoon. Actually, I don't even think I'm gonna do that much because I'm a wimp and I don't like it to be too spicy. That might have actually been half a teaspoon. Let's go a little less. Red pepper flakes can be very, very hot, so keep that in mind. And then I have my spices, which I might need my assistant to pass those to me because they're over there. We have similar flavors that are going on in these two dishes. So we have soy sauce that we need for both. We also have sesame oil and some garlic, which I've got on my pan over there. So our soy sauce, we're gonna need about 4 tablespoons of this. This is a 2 tablespoon measuring, so I'm gonna do 2 of these. And your soy sauce gives you, of course, the salty aspect, which is also called umami. And that is really good for helping to bring out, it enhances sweetness, but it also balances any bitterness that you might have. All right, and then we are gonna be doing 2 teaspoons of sesame oil. So there's 1 and 2. I love sesame oil for flavor. It just really, it has its own kind of nutty flavor to it, so it helps to just bring something different than just your typical olive oil that you might have. And then we also have some garlic. So I'm gonna grab that real quick. And this is just 1 clove of garlic that I went ahead and chopped up with the other. And that's it, that's our sauce that is going on top of our green beans. So our pan should be nice and heated at this point. I'm gonna go ahead and throw our green beans in. And we're just gonna keep moving those around And we really want it to be more of an even layer, which honestly this pan is big enough that I think it works fine. If you have a smaller pan, you want to make sure that you give yourself some more room. So we're just going to keep moving that around until we get a nice char on our green beans. So my pan is on about medium-high heat, and that'll be, I would say, maybe 10 minutes or so, 8 to 10 minutes of really getting that nice char. So we're going to let that finish up, and we're going to start finishing up our egg roll in a bowl over here, and then we'll get started on our chili almonds as well.
Let's get out of here.
Protect what matters most in your life with security from Star Communications.
All right, guys, our green beans are looking good. They're getting nice and charred. We still want just a few more minutes on those. Our egg roll in a bowl is almost done. So what we're gonna do now is do our sauce for our egg roll in a bowl. So for that, we are gonna do some soy sauce. Again, this is giving us that salty, umami flavor. And we need about 3 tablespoons of this. And you could use coconut aminos here if you have an issue with soy sauce. Keep in mind though, the coconut aminos does have some sugar, so it's gonna be, again, balancing out some of that flavor and adjusting your flavor profiles because of the coconut that's in there. So next thing we're gonna be, just threw that, we're gonna be adding some rice vinegar. So this is gonna, sorry, it's a little bit further than I realized. This is gonna give more of that acidic flavor, which kind of can be more of your sour, I guess you could say. So we're doing a whole tablespoon of this as well. And then again, we're gonna hit it again with that sesame oil. So the sesame seed oil helps to give some of that nutty flavor to it that just tastes really good. And that is it. So you're just gonna kind of toss this around to make sure that you've got your cabbage and ground chicken and all of that all kind of mixed in. I did go ahead and add the ground chicken back if I missed telling you guys that. So we just want to make sure that the flavors we just added really hit every bite. So this is where you're adding that flavor to it, but it's not kind of your star. So again, with your blooming, we've got garlic kind of infused in throughout here, mainly because I love garlic. But if you're not a big garlic person or your family doesn't really enjoy garlic, you could even try to just add that more towards the end, and that'll add a little bit of the garlic flavor, but it won't be as strong of garlic throughout your entire dish. And that's it for your egg roll in a bowl. Pretty simple, really just heating everything up, and you want it to be nice and soft, and then it is done. We just add a few green onions here, which I've already got some of those chopped up. So you just top that green onions on top, and it's good to go. It looks beautiful. You could serve that over rice as well if you want an extra carb or starch in there. I think it would even be good over pasta, or you could even use it as a filler and put it in like a tortilla or something like that. I love it just as it is. I don't even need any of the extra stuff. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and get my little pan on here so that we can get started on our green beans, our almonds. I'm gonna stir our green beans, and you can see that our green beans have that nice char kind of going on. I like mine to be a little more soft. This is where your preference might come in. So Texture is also really big. When you think of the foundations of flavor, we think about the temperature of things. You can also think about the texture of foods. So a fresh carrot tastes totally different than a roasted carrot, right? So if you prefer your green beans to be a little more of that crispy crunch, you might go ahead and take those out right now. If you like it to be a little more soft, which I'm not super picky, I like them both ways, but I think I do want to soften these just a little bit further, then you would let them keep cooking for just a little longer. So this is where your preferences really come in. Remember that anytime you're cooking, you have all of these flavors to play with, the textures, the temperatures, you have all of that to also play with within a recipe. So keep those things in mind and adjust it to your preferences. Recipes are never rules. You can always kind of make it fit for you or your family. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and add in our oils. We need about a tablespoon of oil here. I'm just doing some olive oil. And then I'm gonna add in our almonds. I don't think I'm gonna do quite as much as our typical recipe calls for, simply because I've got a smaller pan. We've only got so much space here. So I'm just gonna throw those in. You want your pan to get nice and hot with your oil. And this takes a little bit longer than probably we have for the rest of our show, so we'll finish those off and let you guys see the finished product later. But you're gonna add in your almonds and get those coated in the oil really well. The purpose of coating is that any of the spices you're gonna be adding afterwards will stick, which is what we want. So we're coating those, making sure we get it mixed up really nicely. If you get a bigger pan, this might be even easier. Gotta work with what you got, don't you? All right, that looks pretty good. And then what we're gonna do is we are gonna add some rosemary. So I've got some chopped, dried, or fresh rosemary, sorry. If you don't have fresh, you can use dried. You probably want about, I think it's a tablespoon of dried rosemary. I just ended up doing about 2 sprigs. Again, this is something that you could adjust to taste. I think our recipe calls for 3 sprigs here. And then we're gonna add a little bit of kosher salt. And you also have the option if you want the chili flakes, which will help to really make this pop a little bit. Let's throw in our kosher salt in there. And here are our red pepper chili flakes. So I'm gonna add these to my liking. Again, I don't really like them to be too spicy because I'm kind of a wimp when it comes to spice. And what you do is you just kind of heat those up and constantly try to stir those through for about 15 minutes. So we're really toasting those almonds and helping the flavors to kind of go throughout. So our green beans look good to me. I'm gonna go ahead and turn that off, and we're gonna add in our sauce here. Really cooking. Now, another thing that you could do here is if you didn't want to heat your sauce through, because I'm heating it, it's gonna infuse in the green beans a little bit more. If you were to just toss your green beans in that sauce mixture, not heating it, just do it in a separate bowl, it wouldn't be quite as strong. So again, you're playing with kind of the temperature of things that you're using to help adjust the flavors that you've got in your dish. So that's it, guys. We're just gonna keep stirring this up. Really, you want to remember, and I've got these really cool sheets that talk about your different flavor profiles, what pairs well with other things. Also talking about our foundations of flavor, so salt, acid, fats, and temperature also affect, aside from just your flavor. Think about the temperature of foods, the amount of fats that help to coat your mouth, give you a mouthfeel with certain foods. acid helps to tenderize foods and break things down. And then of course our salt, we think about enhancing that flavor, balancing the sweet and the sour taste. And timing of our salt really matters as well. Again, you think about that infusing process that I keep mentioning. If you do it earlier on in the dish, you're gonna have more salt kind of spread throughout. And it'll also help to bring out the different flavors of that dish as it's cooking, versus if it's at the end, you're gonna have more of the salt kind of at the very end, at the finish of, it'll be what's kind of left on that food. So you can play with that as well. But I'm hoping to have a workshop all on foundations of flavor where you guys can come and we can practice some of this and talk more about foundations of flavor in depth. And you can try a bunch of recipes and taste those flavors that we talk about in the workshop. So I hope this was helpful to you as you're cooking at home, and we will see you guys next time on At the Table.